In 2004, 4 open source software fans from Wolverhampton started an internet radio show. It ran for 5 years, had over 2 million downloads and spawned a string of live conferences. A dedicated community gathered, attracted by the controversial style of the show. Often imitated, never bettered, this is the story of LugRadio.
I just started going to Linux user groups and they're all really monotonous and dull that I'd been to. I mean, I'd only been to a couple. But the thing I wanted to do, the thing I've always enjoyed is meeting people who are really fun and interesting, but really passionate about what they're into.
So I used to go to Wolves Lug, and Wolves Lug was the lug that Jono set up.
When I moved to Wolverhampton to go to university, I set up a Linux user group.
We were never very much a technical lug, we were more a social lug where we would get together and just have a chat about things.
And people that were there were Jono, there was Sparks. Sparks wasn't that regular, but you know, he used to come there and then.
Wolves Lug, we started developing this kind of atmosphere.
So I used to love going to the lug just for the outrageous opinions of people like Ade and how wrong Jono always seems to be.
And we were thinking, well, wouldn't it be interesting to see if on a wider scale people would enjoy this kind of stuff?
We were in Stuart Langridge's house, what he calls his library, which was quite funny because it's a room with books and a massive life-size cutout of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or at least it was in 2003.
And then the idea came along to do a radio show.
As I remember it, I said, why don't we do some kind of internet radio thing? It's debatable who had the idea first, me or Jono. I think we had it concurrently.
We wanted to do a show that we wanted to listen to. At that point, there was only really the Linux show, but it's all really formal and boring. And we'll do something that's more of a laugh, more like the sort of conversations we have every day anyway. Let's do that. You know, there's this whole kind of people talk about it on the internet. We can do that. Let's do that.
Initially, we were talking about having silly sketches in it. You know, I seem to remember some badly thought out idea was having Linus and RMS living in a house together and the crazy japes that they'd get up to.
What you heard on Lug Radio was basically the Lug meeting. In fact, it's basically every waking moment with Jono and Ade. So it's not like this is the show. It's just like this is the bit we recorded for the show.
We wanted a name and it was going to be based around a lug, so I suggested Lug Radio. Again, I'm certain it was me who came up with that name.
When we started, there was, as you said, Matt, Sparks, Jono and I. And Matt had a bit of a background in radio. Jono's got his sound engineering background.
There were various people in the lug who expressed an interest in being in it, but there were only really the people who ended up in the first episode who were really appropriate for it, which sounds really harsh, but you know, we're talking about Linux geeks here, and there are only a few of us who were actually prepared to talk fluidly about anything, let alone to do it on record and at the drop of a hat about a subject that we didn't know about. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but many of the things in LugRadio we never knew a thing about and hadn't really researched it. It was obviously always going to be me, Jono and Stuart, or Ak as he likes to be known, and Sparks was a clear choice as well because he was someone who could speak well, he was funny, and he knew his stuff.
How was the first episode put together?
It was kind of disastrous in many ways, in that we didn't really know what we were doing. I think we spent a lot of time... Yeah, I reviewed a book about design for the web or something like that, and it was 20 minutes long and we was feeling our way, the sound quality was pretty bad, and I think we were all just a little shocked at sitting there recording. We didn't know quite how to behave, and that comes through in the recording.
The ambition is to basically make sure that we talk about anything and everything in an interesting way, and to also, particularly when we started the show, was to try and be as controversial as we could. Like we set out to piss people off.
Really, the content that we produced wasn't that great, but people downloaded it, listened to it, and then joined the forums.
I mailed back to the mailing list to say actually it's actually quite good, and on the website there were a bunch of quotes from just a few people that had responded to the first show, and I had at least 2 or 3 of the comments were mine, and there was one from Peter Oliver which says, "I bet it's shit."
Jono and I both had quite clear visions of what we wanted the show to be, and they were quite different. And I think we probably ended up coming around more to Jono's vision for it, which is something far less polished than perhaps I would want.
When we started out, we were so conscious to not be perceived as a typical radio show. We never wanted to be Radio 2, so it sounds bizarre, but part of the thing that we were very conscious of was that we didn't want to do too much preparation. We wanted it to be raw, so we pressed the big red recording button and then it flows.
Yeah, there was tension, and the result was that we ended up with something that wasn't exactly what anyone wanted from the team, but was better for that, I think.
I've listened to a couple of other podcasts, but there were just people reading paper they've written before, and it was really boring. And there it was 4 people talking to each other, discussing exactly the same way I am talking with my friends.
It was good to hear some interesting content, and it was funny, and it was coming from the UK, which I thought was a good thing, because a lot of the Linux stuff, particularly at that point, was coming from the US. A lot of the websites were US based.
We'd sit in my living room and come up with ideas for the show, and we'd start talking about it, and then we'd say, save it for the show, don't talk about it now. We'd literally just pick the subject and that'd be it. And we were really so concerned about becoming what we refer to as being too professional.
And these people had connections with what I thought technology was about, etc. It's software, it's interesting, it's important, but it's not that important, so we can talk in a very cool way, an easy way. So
these guys are actually talking the same way that we do. I think that was the main appeal for me when I started listening, and it's not like people talking in a forum, a round table, and what do you think about this new operating system here? It's very good, I quite enjoyed using it. It's free, I don't like that very much. And it was just so easy to listen to, and free flowing, very natural.
Within a year of starting Lug Radio, each new episode was getting downloaded by thousands of people. Many fans wanted to see a live recording of an episode, so a one-day conference called LugRadio Live was held in 2005.
LugRadio Live itself was a reaction to things like the Linux Expo, where we'd go down to London and go to the Linux Expo in Olympia, and it would all be very, people talking about multiply stacked RAID arrays, like anyone gives a shit about this kind of thing. And we get out, and the only exciting thing was going out in the evening with people, drinking a load of beer. And we said, well, why don't we just do that for 2 days now, but a whole day just then for the first one in 2005.
The first LugRadio Live, that was pretty crazy, definitely. The Shuttleworth came in his gold helicopter. It was in that tiny little venue where the windows wouldn't open, and it was so hot in there, unbelievable.
It was really anyone that we thought we could get to come to Wolverhampton.
And we had something like 10 exhibitors, 14 speakers for one day.
We thought 10 people and his dog would turn up. We genuinely didn't think anyone would come, which is why we all booked a grotty little room in the Molyneux Stadium. And then when we kind of got to capacity and the bar couldn't cope with the number of people there, I don't know, we clicked onto the fact that something had happened and that we'd accidentally created something.
Because we were all terrified that there'd be like maybe 20 people turn up, 30, and we were like, if we get like 50 people, that'd be brilliant. And there's like 250 people, and you're like, crap, these guys have come to listen to us. What?
When we started out, we were really, really kind of paranoid about taking it too far, if you see what I mean. So making sure that it was very, very community focused. So we didn't have any sponsorship, and we resisted sponsorship at every step of the way. We never wanted any sponsorship other than companies that were absolutely community focused, like Bitemark, who have supported us every year.
The UK event has always been kind of held together by chewing gum and string and nails.